Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thanks so much for being here. Monday, April 28th, Jaguars draft all wrapped up. If you want to hear about the undrafted free agents, go back and look at the show this morning. You want to see the draft grades, we did that too. Now is time for just kind of like some broader draft takeaways, which we might have mentioned, might have looked at a little bit, but going to dive into my broader draft takeaways from the Jaguars 2025 draft class, the way the Jaguars moved, the way they operated, and what they were looking for and what that could mean for the roster and some of the guys that were already on the roster moving forward. So we're going to dive into that. Still going to be a lot of draft coverage, individualized kind of player outlooks from the draft class. We're going to look at draft grades from around the web. There's a lot to get into, and I'm fired up to do it. Really appreciate y'all supporting the channel, consuming the content, leaving feedback in the comment section, liking and subscribing, all makes a difference. Obviously, I think you would be remiss for the top takeaway to not have something to do with Travis Hunter, right? I think Travis Hunter, the player and the trade up, is an embodiment, and James Gladstone kind of said this, it's an embodiment of what the Jaguars want to be as an organization. The idea that you have a player that can play both sides of the ball and kind of break down that stigma, that thought process, that limitation wall, whatever you want to call it, that the NFL has put on players, that football has put on players, is so bold to sit here and say, yes, Travis Hunter can play wide receiver and cornerback and can do it at such a high level that he warrants not only a first-round pick this year, but a first-round pick next year and a second-round pick. Right. And so I think that was an unbelievable move. And if Travis Hunter is who I believe he is, who the Jaguars believe he is, who most NFL draft analysts and scouts believed he is, he's going to pay that off big time. I think he's just such an unbelievable talent. And James Gladstone and the Jaguars organization's willingness to trade up and say, he's going to be a wide receiver and a cornerback for our football team. He's going to make a difference on both sides of the ball. And he's basically the physical embodiment, human embodiment of what we're trying to be as an organization. Was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then couple that with the fact that, yeah, James Gladstone, did he mortgage the future for the Jaguars with the draft pick, with the trade up? No, he didn't mortgage it, because they were still a team that had a ton of draft capital in 2025 and 2026. Like, I've seen some people compare this to some of these crazy trades you've seen throughout history in the NFL, like Ricky Williams, Herschel Walker, etc. The Jaguars still had, even before James Gladstone made another heady move to trade down and acquire more 2026 third round picks, they still had a lot of draft capital in both seasons, both years, right? 2025 and 2026. So to me, that was outlandish conversation. But even though they still had a good amount of draft capital heading into 2026, they just didn't have their first round pick. James Gladstone said, we can get creative here on day 2. And he traded 1 third-round pick and 2 sixth-round picks to the Lions for 3 third-round picks. That is one of the most lopsided trades I can remember. 3 third-rounders for 1 third-rounder and 2 sixth-rounders. That makes zero sense from the Lions' perspective, man. And all the sense in the world for the Jaguars. So a lot of that draft capital you lost next year with that, giving up that 2026 first-round pick, he got a lot of it back by getting those 2 third-round picks that you can then, if you want to, turn into earlier round picks, right? So he got a lot of flexibility back, got a lot of draft capital back, still got guys that he wanted on day 2 when you talk about Wyatt Milam and Caleb Ransaw. So to me, this was a masterclass by James Gladstone and a unbelievable win for the Jaguars, for the city of Jacksonville, being able to get Travis Hunter. He's going to elevate things so much. And we'll talk about like specifically how a little bit later and how he impacts the offense. But Travis Hunter is just one of the rarest players I've scouted, definitely the best player from this draft class, and somebody who I think is, like James Gladstone, is really working to help change how things have been going in Jacksonville. And there's always the risk it doesn't work out. We're all talking about the Jaguars after all, but from a process standpoint, I think it was on the money. Now, looking at this draft class as a whole, I think tape and intangibles are going to win over pure athletes for this regime every single time. You saw that throughout. And that's not to say they didn't get good athletes, because they really kind of did. Like Caleb Ransaw is an elite athlete, whether you're talking about a corner, nickel, safety. But the reason they drafted him really is not only because of the athleticism, but because of the tape. A guy that doesn't miss tackles, a guy that sees the game well, a guy that showed the ability to play safety at the Senior Bowl. You talk about Jack Kaiser. Again, not a bad athlete at the linebacker position, but it's the athleticism he shows on the field combined with his instincts, his preparation, his leadership, right? Wyatt Milam, not a bad athlete at guard, but you see the strain, the finish, not giving up a sack in 3 straight collegiate seasons. He in his opening meeting with the media, he said, "I promise I'm not going to let anyone touch Trevor Lawrence." Like, these are the types of things the Jaguars are looking for. And you talk about Tootin, Bashal Tootin. Love the name. Absolutely hilarious. Love the athlete. Love the player. 4.32 40-yard dash, 1.49-10 split. The guy is an unbelievable athlete. But guess what? He also had the second most forced missed tackles in this class behind only Ashton Genty. Like, he's a real runner. He's not just an athlete. And so I think you look at all these picks, and there are impressive traits physically that these guys have, but their tape and intangibles are going to be just as important or more important than the pure testing athleticism and the length, right? Another just stark contrast between what you've seen so far from the Jacksonville Jaguars under James Gladstone, Liam Cohen, Tony Boselli, and what you saw prior to that. And getting into that, like, there's just a much more cohesive process of scouting and adding talent between the coaches and the front office, without question. The types of players that they have added on the offensive side of the ball fit to a T what Liam Cohen has shown that he likes to do from a play calling standpoint, from a schematic standpoint, not just in the draft, but also in free agency. And then how about right after the draft? Next day, they go get Emmanuel Ogbah, which there's so many levels to it, but A, he has familiarity with your new defensive coordinator. They worked together for several years in Miami, which is huge. B, it's directly addressing one of the failures of the previous organization. The last couple of years, Trent Baalke has refused to sign an edge 3. Who knows why, right? But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting that they're able to go get Ogbah, who that's a perfect role for him at 31 years old. I think you also just saw that versatility and special teams are key. Wyatt Milam played tackle at West Virginia. He's going to start his young career on the interior. Caleb Ransaw, again, played outside corner and nickel during his college career at Troy and then Tulane, and he's going to be playing safety to get things going for the Jaguars. He has special teams ability as well. You look at LaQuint Allen, the running back they selected. His versatility is key as a runner, pass protector, pass catcher. He has some special teams experience going back to his freshman year. Rayon Lane, great safety at Navy, maybe the best gunner in this class on special teams. And you just keep seeing it. Jack Kaiser, a captain, a leader at linebacker. Special teams. Played a lot of special teams. Core 4 special teams guy. Jalen McLeod plays edge, plays off ball, can play special teams, right? There's just so much of that in this draft class. So those are things that the Jaguars are definitely valuing, especially when you get into day 3. There's just a lot of new blood in general when you talk about the Jaguars roster right now. Obviously, a large portion of this undrafted free agent class, which is 20 players, almost all of them are not going to make the final roster, but they are going to compete and they are going to push. And these guys kind of embody a lot of the things we talked about with the actual draft picks as well. And we talked about the undrafted free agents earlier today. Again, you can go check that out. But between the draft, undrafted free agency, and Emmanuel Ogbah, that's 30 new players that were added since last Thursday. So there's going to be a much different look to this Jaguars football team throughout the summer and preseason and all that stuff. And maybe some of these guys will find a way to make the team when you talk about the undrafted free agents. But even if you're just talking about Emmanuel Ogbah and the draft, I mean, that's like 10 new players. So it's going to be different. And they signed 10 free agents, veteran free agents, something like that. So even though you're still going to have a lot of the mainstays, obviously your quarterback, Brian Thomas Jr., your two offensive tackles, your two edge players, Tyson Campbell, Foye Oluokun, there's going to be a lot of change at other spots. Another big takeaway, which we've kind of hinted at, is the offensive skill sets now from the skill position players. You got tight ends at every level now. When it comes to like veteran free agency and undrafted free agency that are good blockers, and that really fits what Liam Cohen wants. And Brenton Strange is obviously a good blocker, kind of their most balanced tight end in terms of having some receiving capability as well. But you have guys that have speed, yak ability at running back and at wide receiver, getting yards with the ball in your hands. And I don't know if ETN's going to be around in 2025. It just kind of, I hope he is. I think that their best path forward with ETN is keeping him for 2025 and having just an unbelievably explosive running back room. But you look at the guys they've added combined with what they added last year in Brian Thomas Jr., the speed that he has, the ability with the ball in his hands. But Travis Hunter, insanely fast, insanely explosive with the ball in his hands. Very difficult to get to the ground when he gets some space. Bashal Tootin, super explosive and fast with the ball in his hands as well. Tank Bigsby, we've seen his ability to bust off big, long runs. De'Ami Brown, really fast, very explosive, very good yak ability. All these guys can win in the screen game and do things like that. So it's a lot of cohesive skill sets, complementary skill sets, guys that will fit within Liam Cohen's offense. And again, that kind of goes back to the cohesiveness of the front office and the coaching staff. I just think that they're going to have so much more ability with this group to just get the ball into playmakers' hands quickly and let them do work. A lot of fun. I think Mason Smith and Eric Armstead are pretty massive winners overall. They really are. And I talked about this before the draft. I said that interior defensive line is definitely a future need. It might not be a current need because you have Mason Smith, Eric Armstead, even Devon Hamilton, Jordan Jefferson. But to me, I never understood why Eric Armstead was playing edge last year, playing defensive end. He's not going to be doing that this year. He's going to be playing on the interior. And Mason Smith, I don't know why he wasn't on the field last year to start the season. But when he got on the field late in the season, he played his butt off and he looked really good and he continuously popped. So Eric Armstead, Mason Smith, as these two interior penetrators, and both guys that can play the run a little bit as well if you're asking them to. Just depends on the assignment. I think it's exciting. I said that before the draft, even though I thought that they were going to go Mason Graham. I thought he would raise their ceiling and their floor and also raise their future outlook at the position. Maybe the Jaguars would like to keep, maybe the Jaguars hope that Eric Armstead plays like he did in San Francisco, and then they keep him not only for 2025, but also 2026. I mean, you look at his contract. We've talked about this a little bit too. Some of these contracts that Trent Baalke inked during his last year in Jacksonville were not quite as team-friendly as some of the ones he had done in the past, which who knows why, I'm not sure. But when you look at his contract, everybody kind of pegs him as a 2026 cap cut, which he very well may be. He's 32 years old. are going to be 32 years old. He's an expensive player, but 2026, there's 17.1 million in dead money and only 2.3 in cap savings if you cut him pre-June 1. So really, for him to be a cap cut, I think he would need to be post June 1. And then you're talking about a $4.9 million dead money and $14.5 million in cap savings, which they could still do that. But maybe their best path forward, their hope, is that he plays so well in 2025 that they just keep him around for 2026 or even extend him and save money. So I think Eric Armstead and Mason Smith potentially could be a very disruptive interior. I really do. And that combined with Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker, what you added both in the draft with Jalen McLeod, with obviously Emmanuel Ogbah, and then some of the guys you added in undrafted free agency, the defensive front's looking pretty good. And speaking of kind of looking at the future, Jack Kaiser could very well be a starter at some point down the stretch in 2025 and definitely in 2026. Like, I don't know how they feel about Devin Lloyd. Again, they kind of just said that they don't have a plan yet when it comes to his fifth-year option, so I don't think that they're going to pick up that fifth-year option. I don't blame them considering some of the inconsistencies you see, and then the fact that, paying him $14.7 million for a season or whatever it would be on the fifth-year option is just kind of a lot. I think Devin Lloyd's going to be going into the final year of his rookie contract in 2025. Chad Muma's going to be going into the final year of his rookie contract in 2025. I think Jack Kaiser could very well be a starter sooner than later because you pop on the tape with him. He kind of does everything really well, plays at a high level, doesn't miss many tackles. I could see it. I think Caleb Ransaw could start right away at safety for them potentially. He is the best combination of size and athleticism and just not missing tackles that you see on this roster at safety by far. As long as he can kind of understand the system back there and be able to read, because, he has man coverage abilities, sure. But in zone coverage, as long as he's got the good zone eyes, and you just haven't really seen that as much from playing safety because, again, he played more corner and nickel. He could start right away if he can show that he can handle the mental responsibility back there, and all indications are they believe he can. So those are my top takeaways. We'll get into a lot more draft talk, a lot more individualized talk, look at kind of what people are saying around the web, all that good stuff. But those are my thoughts on the Jaguars draft. I thought they did a really good job. I thought this was a transformational draft from a process standpoint. Obviously, getting Travis Hunter was the biggest swing that any team took in this draft, outside of maybe the Falcons trading up for James Pierce Jr., but that's neither here nor there. Travis Hunter, unbelievable move for the Jaguars. I cannot wait to see him on the field. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. Let me know what your biggest draft takeaway is in the comment section below. And if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.